One of the most authentic breakfasts in Indian cuisine is the dosa. Fermented rice and dal batter flattened on a hot plate, turning it into a thin, crispy dosa that millions eat almost every day. But what about the history of dosa? What if dosa is far more complicated than we imagine? What if behind this humble breakfast lies a hidden history of science, technology, metallurgy, and ancient food engineering? Because unlike a simple flatbread cooked directly on fire, dosa needs something far more advanced: fermentation, wet grinding, controlled batter, and most importantly, a flat heated surface. So what does iron smelting have to do with the dosa? And what if the ancestor of dosa was already mentioned thousands of years ago in Rig Veda itself, something called as Purodasha? Could the dosa we eat today actually carry echoes of the ancient Vedic food tradition? The humble dosa sitting on your plate may have a much deeper history than we could possibly imagine. Let's uncover the untold history of dosa. Roti is one of humanity's greatest survival foods because it is incredibly efficient. Roti or likes of it has built civilizations. Almost every ancient civilization had their versions of roti. You can cook directly on fire, the flour can be stored for months, wheat survives transport easily, it needs less water compared to rice agriculture, you do not need fermentation, you do not need specialized cookware, you do not need complex preparation. In many ways, roti built civilizations because it perfectly fits mobility. It works for migration, travel, farming, trade, military movement, pretty much everything. It is simple, fast, and scalable. But dosa is completely different. Dosa is actually a technologically complicated, I would say. You cannot simply throw batter into the fire. First, you need rice, and you need a lot of rice because you cannot afford to make dosa unless rice is in surplus. Because of the shelf life of the batter, you cannot store it, and then soaking and then grinding. Traditionally, this grinding itself was a massive process done on giant grinding stones inside homes. And then comes fermentation, which means now you're depending on microbial activity, humidity, time, temperature. Long story short, dosa is very complicated. In many ways, roti is the food of movement, but dosa became the food of settlement. Now this immediately raises a fascinating question. How old is the idea of dosa? And where exactly did it begin? Interestingly, when we go into the ancient Indian texts, the Rig Veda or the Yajur Veda or some of the Brahmanas, there are references of something that could be an ancestor of dosa. Today, most of us know that the dosa originated in the southern part of India, and that is fairly well understood. But did dosa have an ancestor? Possibly yes. Because deep inside the Vedic corpus, there are certain repeated references of rice-based ritual foods. The texts like Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Shatavada Brahmana, and Taittiriya Brahmana mention two very interesting preparations. One is called charu, a rice-based boiled offering, kind of a soupy porridge, a soft porridge of sorts, topped up with some condiments like pepper. And then there is something called as Purodasha. Now this is where things become fascinating. Purodasha was a firm sacrificial cake made either from ground barley or ground rice, thick, dense, and hard, carefully prepared for the Vedic rituals. In some ways, it feels very close to something like a dokla or avirikudum in Telugu traditions. Now, to be very clear, I'm not saying that Purodasha is a direct ancestor of the modern dosa. But what it clearly tells us is that rice-based cakes and processed grain preparations were already part of the Vedic world thousands of years ago. Think about what that means. On one side of the Vedic corpus already has liquid rice-based preparations like charu. Another side has thick grain cakes made of rice like Purodasha. The foundation already existed, and then somewhere across the centuries, culinary evolution happens because dosa is not as simple as we think. So let's flip the dosa to see what's under the hood. Now we know that dosa originated in the southern part of India, but the question is why? Now when we start looking at the conditions required for dosa to emerge, southern India suddenly becomes extremely important for three major reasons. The first is the climate. The southern India is naturally suited for fermentation, warm temperatures and humid, and it creates a perfect environment for the microbial activity. Batter can naturally rise overnight, and this is not a small detail because fermentation behaves differently across climates. In colder, drier regions, batter simply does not behave the same way as it behaves in the tropical regions. But in the humid kitchens of southern India, fermentation becomes almost very natural. If you like my content, do check my Telugu channel Project Govinda, where I'll be posting content in Telugu. Link to the channel is in the pinned comment. The second factor is agriculture. Dosa is deeply connected to rice surplus. Rice is not like wheat. Rice needs water, a lot of it. Rivers, wet cultivation, monsoons, irrigation systems, stable agriculture. There are a lot of conducive factors in southern India that developed exactly these conditions through its river valleys and monsoon ecology. And most importantly, the freshly harvested rice is the best fit for making dosas because the grain has a lot of moist, and that kind of rice gets into batter very easily on the hand stone grinders. And also, you cannot use this freshly harvested rice for cooking white rice or steamed rice because it just doesn't hold up. It becomes like a porridge. So, if I harvest rice, while I store rice for future use, I have to consume some parts of it in the early stage of the harvest. And that's where dosa kicks in. It becomes a very natural choice for me to use that or to eat that freshly harvested rice in different forms and shapes, and not necessarily only in the white rice form. So it's a kind of the places which harvested rice, they had no choice to make this dosa with the freshly harvested rice because it cannot be used for typical cooking purposes because that needs to be aged. That's another reason. And the third factor is the metallurgy. Southern India developed strong early iron working traditions. In fact, recent researchers have shown that across the world, it is most likely that Tamil Nadu is the place where iron smelting have happened. Shivagalai, Adichanallur, Keeladi. Places like this show activity of smelting iron as old as 1200 to 1500 BC during that period. So when metallurgy is very obvious and native to this place, making hot plates or your tawa or pan is a very obvious thing. So these three factors, agricultural, climatic and metallurgical, three main reasons that created a very conducive atmosphere for dosa to evolve. And there are certain baseless theories that Cholas brought in dosa from the Indonesia and all that. That's absolutely baseless because like I said, there are references that predate Cholas as well with regards to dosa or the proto form of dosa. Now let us take another example of something just as ancient and fascinating as dosa, the Injera of Ethiopia. Injera has a history going back more than 3000 years. Made from teff flour, it is fermented, poured onto a hot plate as batter and slowly turns into a spongy, soft flatbread, eaten with multiple curries, dips, side dishes and all. In many ways, Injera follows the exact same template as dosa. Fermentation, batter, hot plate cooking, a flat bread born out of grain science and controlled heat. The only major difference is the grain itself. Like Injera uses teff, which is naturally suited for the arid and dry conditions of Ethiopia, while dosa evolved around rice and dal in southern part of India where water is surplus. And that is the important point here. If the right conditions exist, agriculture, fermentation, cookware technology, climate and culinary experimentation, similar foods can evolve independently across civilizations. So the world did not necessarily learn dosa from South India. Rather, foods like dosa and injera show that human civilizations often arrive at similar culinary innovations when science, environment and the necessity come together. Now let's move to the most interesting and possibly awaited chapter of this video, the dosa pride. Which state it belongs to? Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, 5 states. Which state actually is the birthplace of dosa? And honestly, the deeper you go into the history of dosa, the harder that question becomes to answer. Where is the birthplace of dosa? Because the diversity itself suggests something else. It suggests that dosa traditions evolved across multiple regions of southern India in parallel. And this becomes even more interesting when we look at the language itself. Today, most of the southern Indian languages use some form or variations of dosa, dosai, more or less pretty much that. But in Telugu language, which is both in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, there is something else. In Telugu, dosa is actually called as attu. And this ancient naming tradition still survives in certain dishes like pesarattu, which is like a dosa made of moong dal, or bobbattu, which is made of chana and jaggery. It's a sweet of sorts. Now, these two words, pesarattu and bobbattu, are like, they're not two different words. For example, if you take masala dosa, it is two different words, masala and dosa, onion dosa. There are two different words, but here it is one word, pesarattu. So maybe because of this fusion, the word attu did not go away. Today, even in Telugu states as well, like the word dosa is used like 90-95% of the times it's always called dosa. But these specific items, the pesarattu and bobbattu, the words are fused and they stayed. So the word attu is still there. And even more interestingly, the flat ladle which is used to flip the dosa, in Telugu it is called as atlakada, which means a ladle used for making the attu. So the name attu is very much native to Telugu. So if dosa is invented in some other states in southern part of India and it entered into the Telugu cuisine, it should have simply carried the name of dosa as well, like it carries today, like masala dosa or onion dosa, but that's not the case. There is already a native name for dosa in Telugu cuisine as attu. Now if you take a little more deeper look into the linguistics, there are certain words in Telugu. Kottu means to hit, pattu means to grip, Kattu means to bind. Tattu means to tap. So like this, there is no written linguistic rule that all these rhyming words are showing up some sort of a physical exertion or a physical activity, but it is just a parallel that we have, a pattern that we have. Same way, attu means basically you're applying a sort of a pressure onto the hot plate to spread out the batter. So maybe that's the reason it is given. This is actually just my anecdote and not any linguistic rule of sorts. But clearly you see a certain kind of a pattern. More important than pattern is the name itself. Like I said, Pesarattu, Babbattu, these are the names of the dishes that are still existing in Telugu language. So one thing is for sure, if the dish has come from outside, it would have come along with its name. But that's not the case. So clearly dosa is native to Telugu cuisine. But does that mean that Andhra and Telangana are the birthplaces of the attu or dosa? Absolutely not. This is where things get even more interesting. Take this variant of dosa in Karnataka called the Neer Dosa, which means a dosa that is watery of sorts, for lack of better translation. So basically it is made directly by grinding rice into a watery consistency and pouring it directly onto the hot plate. And this form of dosa, which is the Neer Dosa, is very popular in the coastal Karnataka regions. Now take a step back and think about it. Under what conditions that you would really grind a freshly harvested rice directly and then pour it into a batter? You will not even let it ferment. Basically it's an urgent preparation, on the fly preparation of sorts. So if you have huge amounts of rice, especially the freshly harvested one, Neer Dosa is pretty much an off-the-shelf breakfast. On the contrary, in the inlands of Karnataka, there is another form of dosa called Set Dosa. Basically a dosa that is well fermented and has thick consistency and is like you have a spongy kind of a texture. Now this format of dosa evolved with overnight storage, well prepared day before, so on and so forth. So it's basically the typical fermentation process that takes to make a dosa. Now if you take another format of dosa in Andhra and Telangana, there is something called as Pullattu, which is like extremely fermented batter. Not everyone will be able to handle this kind of tangy taste unless you have a palate for Pullattu. And here as well, once again you see the word attu and not the word dosa. Now coming down to south, in Kerala, they have another format of dosa which is called as Aapam. Now pouring the batter onto a plate in a perfect circle is not really an easy task. Maybe that's the reason, or for whatever reason, they invented a very unique form of dosa. Basically pouring the batter into a hemispherical kadai and giving it the taste and the texture of the grated coconut as well, further localizing it. Pouring an Aapam is much more easier than pouring a perfect circular dosa. So different places, different problems, different solutions, as you see. And coming to the great Tamil Nadu, here the word dosa is actually called as Kal Dosa, which means basically Kal means stone and dosa is the typical dosa. So basically it shows the stone grind technique through which the batter is made. In fact, in places like Adichanallur, there were stone grinders which were unearthed dating back to almost 1200 BC to 1500 BC. Now, how you date such kind of a stone grinder? Thanks to the particles of the food that was stuck in the stone grinder. And when you step back and observe all this, something remarkable appears. Some dosas are thin, some dosas are thick, some are crisp, some are soft, some are heavily fermented, some are barely fermented at all. Some use watery batter and some use thick aerated batter. Depends on different place, different texture, taste. The diversity itself tells a story, and that story is that the dosa was not confined to one exact kitchen or one exact kingdom. Broadly invented in the southern part of India thanks to the conducive factors like I said, climate, metallurgy and agricultural factors. It evolved across southern India as an entire ecosystem of fermentation, rice, climate, metallurgy and memory. And perhaps that is why dosa feels so emotional even today, because this was never just one recipe. For centuries, batter quietly fermented overnight in the kitchens of southern India. Grinding stones rotated before the sunrise. Iron pans blackened over generations. Measurements were never written down. Your grandmother just knew how much of water, rice and urad dal makes a perfect dosa. Passed from mother to daughter, kitchen to kitchen, region to region, roti may have been the food of movement, but like I said, dosa became the food of settlement, of water, climate, patience, fermentation, memory, and perhaps that is why even today dosa is not one thing. It's like an onion with layers of innovation, adaptation, and localization. And that's in brief is the untold history of dosa. Just one quick thing before I sign off. Project Govinda is my new Telugu channel. If you're someone who can understand Telugu or interested in the Telugu content that I create, and most importantly, if you like the content that I'm creating, do check that channel. మీరు తెలుగు వాళ్ళు అయితే కనుక ప్రాజెక్ట్ గోవింద తెలుగు ఛానల్ లింక్ నేను ఇక్కడ కింద పిన్ కామెంట్లో ఇస్తున్నాను. మీకు ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఉంటే కనుక చూడొచ్చు. అండ్ as always, thanks for watching.